Hey guys. Um, Sorry you have to see my face for this video instead of a cool PowerPoint, but I have some questions to answer and let's dive on in. Before we get started, I want to let you know that the patient that my video was about, he has graduated the our, our treatment program and he's doing great. He's feeling a lot better, which is really cool. He's no longer at the facility because we let him go. He's no longer with us. Um, so I'll read off some questions. The first ones are from Santi. And he asks, how lengthy are the appointments? Do you run all the tests on the first visit or do you break them up? And we allow typically 4 hours for an appointment. And we try to do them all in one day, but if the patient gets sick or nauseous, we'll do them in 2 separate days. He also asks if the patients receive a diagnosis on the same day. No, typically. For most patients, we wait a week. We want to get all the data together and kind of review it. If we have a patient coming from out of town, then we try to get it to them the next day because then we want to start therapy as soon as possible. So thank you, Santi, for the questions. The next ones are from Dr. Westrick. He says, how often do you see people with diagnosis of BPPV from a PCP or ER doctor when it's actually something else? And that was a cool question. I think it's hard to tell because a patient may have BPPV in the ER or at their primary care physician. And then when they come back to us, they might be negative and we just don't know really. So sometimes that happens. He also asked if BPPV is used as a blanket diagnosis for you're dizzy and I don't know why, so here's some meclizine or here's some other thing. That's common. Sometimes a lot of doctors just don't know. So they'll say you have BPPV, here's some meclizine, bye. Or what we see more often is a lot of doctors like to say vestibular migraine. So they'll say, oh, you have vestibular migraines, try to control it and be on your way. And then that's it. So when they get to us, they don't have any sort of testing done. There's no evidence to really suggest that, oh, they have vestibular migraines besides the fact that they're dizzy and maybe they have migraines sometimes. But even vestibular migraine patients don't always feel their migraines. So I think that's kind of just not lazy of the physician, but just them not being knowledgeable in the subject matter. Dr. Westrick also asked, are the case history phone calls used for every appointment? Yes, we do it for every single patient coming in for a full balance evaluation. We set aside about 30 minutes of a phone call to do a case history, and we do that just to save time while they're in the clinic. But once they come into the clinic for their full balance evaluation, we review it with them just to make sure that there's no big changes. The next questions are from Anna. She asks, are the tests performed part of our standard clinical battery or were they handpicked based off of the patient's case history? Every patient's going to get all of these tests done. They're not handpicked based off their case history. They are part of our clinic battery. It would be interesting to handpick each test, which preferably is what I would like to do. But I understand that this is more consistent in seeing every piece of data. And she also asked, are there any tests that I would have left out? For this patient, no. Honestly, all of the tests had some sort of abnormality that kind of led us to the diagnosis. But there are some patients where a good amount of their tests come out normal. It's like, well, did we really need that test? And this happens a lot with V&Gs actually. Their V&G will be completely normal, but there's a lot of other things going on in different tests. So that was really interesting to learn because I know a lot of other clinics use the V&G as their golden standard of some sort of balanced diagnosis. So seeing that we mainly put that on the back burner and don't really use it as much is pretty interesting. Carmen asks, have you seen a lot of utricular dysfunction? If so, what type of exercises do you recommend? Yes, so a lot of our patients, like you said in your question. You mentioned that a lot of BPPV patients, yeah, a lot of recurrent or even just one-time BPPV patients will have some form of utricular dysfunction, and that's just because those crystals get dislodged and kind of weakens the otolith organ. Um, and so the type of exercises that we do a lot of bouncing on balls, trampolines while they're watching vertical optokinetic lights. Um, that's really just to stimulate the VOR and the OOR, so any sort of otolith function. Anything that goes like forward and back, up and down is really good. So sometimes we'll even have patients who go to a gym often. They'll do a lot of rowing. They go on their little rower machine, which is fun. We also use the Omniax chair as a treatment. So we do things like Brandt Duroff, where they'll go one side to the other, or they do log rolls. So we put them supine, and then they just flip from one side to the other, all while they're watching some form of optokinetic lights. And then one that I like to do, a good exercise, is we have different things of foam that the patient could stand on. Some of them are thin, some of them are really thick. And so I have a patient stand on foam and they bend over to pick up a block, raise it up in the air, just moving the head in different positions, put it back down, step over to the new foam, which could be thick, it could be thin, it just challenges their vestibular spinal reflex at the same time. So that's a fun exercise to do. Then the last question comes from Kendra. She said, if I were to change the timeline of events, would it have been more beneficial to the patient if they were to go to the ER or the PCP or even start therapy sooner? I think that this patient's timing towards his ER visit was good, and towards his primary care physician was good as well. The only issue I think that there was that his primary care physician asked him to wait about a month before coming to us. So I think that month of waiting just kind of delayed his recovery, which I don't know, depends on how bad the patient was doing at the beginning, but his symptoms were pretty severe. If we saw him sooner, we could have caught his BPPV, but we didn't. Luckily, he was treated by the time he got in, so that's good news. But there's a lot of other things that he needed to work on, and he got through it, and he did it, and he's doing great now. But yeah, I think he was a really good patient. All the documentation that I showed you guys was really good data. It's not all the time that our data looks like that. A lot of the older patients, the data is harder to look at, just because there's a lot more variables there. But his case was really good, and so I wanted to show you guys that. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me. You guys have my email or phone number. Anyone works. But yeah, thanks guys for listening, and I'll see you soon online. I don't know. Bye.